The episode begins with the annual Dundies, Michael Scott's favorite night of the year. For Michael, the Dundies are much more than just silly office awards. They're his way of making everyone feel appreciated and reminding them that Dunder Mifflin is like a family. Unfortunately, the employees don't seem nearly as excited as Michael. As everyone gathers for the ceremony, Michael immediately starts making jokes, trying to keep the atmosphere fun. But the night quickly becomes awkward when he announces that there will be no group tab this year. Everyone has to pay for their own food and drinks, which instantly kills some of the excitement. Still, Michael pushes forward with the awards. One of the biggest moments comes when Ryan wins the award for being the hottest person in the office. Michael proudly presents him with the trophy, while the crowd reacts loudly. Other employees receive strange and completely ridiculous awards, many of which only make sense inside Michael's head. As the night continues, Michael gets more and more carried away. The party becomes increasingly chaotic, and eventually the restaurant staff has had enough. Michael and the employees are asked to leave. But instead of being embarrassed, Michael considers the evening a huge success. Back at the office, another surprise is waiting. Michael discovers that Toby has returned to the office, and this is basically Michael's worst nightmare. Michael has never liked Toby, so Toby's return immediately puts him in a terrible mood. Michael dramatically calls David Wallace and claims there is an emergency. David assumes something serious has happened, only to discover that Michael's 911 message was mostly an excuse to get him on the phone. Michael then begins provoking Toby, hoping Toby will lose his temper. The employees gather around, enjoying the spectacle. Things get even crazier when Dwight decides to involve the police. Dwight falsely suggests that there may be illegal substances hidden in the office. The police arrive and begin searching Toby's belongings. Michael is thrilled because he thinks this will finally prove Toby is a bad guy. But the search finds nothing illegal. Instead, the police discover something completely harmless that Michael mistakenly treats like a major scandal. The entire plan falls apart, leaving everyone embarrassed and confused. Meanwhile, the office is also celebrating Diwali. Kelly organizes the celebration and is extremely excited about showing everyone Indian culture. However, Michael tries to explain the holiday himself and manages to turn the cultural presentation into one of the most awkward moments of the night. He attempts to explain Indian traditions, famous Indian people, and the meaning behind Diwali. But his information is often confused, exaggerated, or simply wrong. Kelly is especially embarrassed. Michael then makes the situation even more uncomfortable when he suddenly decides that the celebration has inspired him to make a huge romantic gesture toward his former girlfriend, Carol. In front of everyone, Michael proposes to her. Carol is completely caught off guard. The situation becomes painfully awkward, and Michael eventually realizes that his grand plan has gone terribly wrong. But the office party isn't finished yet. Michael wants to make the celebration memorable, so he arranges entertainment for the women in the office. Unfortunately, instead of getting the kind of entertainment he originally intended, the office ends up with a historical performer dressed as Benjamin Franklin. Michael tries to make the situation exciting, but the whole event becomes another disaster. The performer attempts to stay professional, while Michael and the employees ask increasingly ridiculous questions. Eventually, Michael realizes the situation is going too far and shuts everything down. At the same time, the office has to deal with another problem, Kelly's birthday. The employees try to organize a celebration for her, but their preparation is hilariously terrible. The cake is plain, the decorations are disappointing, and nobody seems to understand what Kelly actually wants. Kelly complains that the birthday doesn't have a theme. The employees finally come up with a ridiculous theme. She gets to choose between watching TV or taking a nap for an hour. Surprisingly, Kelly loves the idea. She chooses a nap, and everyone is ordered to leave so she can enjoy her birthday hour. While all of this is happening, Michael and Dwight get involved in another completely unnecessary adventure. They decide to steal an enormous industrial copier from another location. Jim immediately realizes that this is a terrible idea. Michael and Dwight, however, are convinced that they are brilliant criminals. They sneak into the building pretending to be warehouse workers. Michael keeps narrating everything they're doing, while Dwight prepares increasingly ridiculous plans for dealing with security. Eventually, they manage to get their hands on the massive copier. The machine is extremely heavy and difficult to move. Their escape quickly turns into complete chaos as they struggle with the copier, stairs, railings, and their own lack of planning. Jim is forced to deal with the situation while trying to keep everyone from making things even worse. Then, just when things couldn't become more awkward, Karen appears. Michael immediately encourages Jim to reconnect with Karen, but Jim refuses to get involved. Karen is simply there because she's checking on another branch, completely unaware of the ridiculous situation happening behind the scenes. Eventually, the group manages to survive their disastrous adventure. But the biggest emotional moment of the episode comes when Michael's final Dundies ceremony appears to be a failure. Michael believes the show is over. He thinks nobody really appreciates him, and that his final Dundies will end without anything meaningful happening. Then, something unexpected happens. The employees decide that they aren't ready to let the Dundies end. They convince Michael to continue the ceremony. One by one, the employees begin giving out awards, turning the night into something much more personal. Eventually, Andy wins an absurd award, and instead of focusing on himself, he starts thanking Michael. Then, the entire office joins in. They reveal that they have secretly been preparing something special for him. The employees perform a heartfelt song dedicated to Michael, celebrating all the years he has spent at Dunder Mifflin. The song emphasizes how many minutes Michael has spent working with them, through meetings, birthdays, emails, arguments, jokes, awkward moments, and countless disasters. For once, Michael is completely speechless. The man who normally needs to be the center of attention suddenly realizes that the people around him genuinely appreciate him. All the ridiculous parties, embarrassing jokes, terrible decisions, and uncomfortable moments suddenly feel meaningful. The employees aren't just co-workers anymore. They've become a strange, dysfunctional family. And Michael finally understands that the Dundies aren't really about the trophies. The episode ends on an emotional note as Michael realizes just how much the office means to him and how much he means to the people around him. From a disastrous awards ceremony and Toby's return to a chaotic Diwali celebration, Kelly's bizarre birthday, Dwight's ridiculous police scheme, and an impossible copier heist, the entire episode is packed with classic Dunder Mifflin chaos. But underneath all the comedy, the final Dundies reveal something surprisingly heartfelt. Michael Scott may be incredibly annoying, but his employees really do care about him.